So good morning, everybody, and thanks for TERI for the invitation to come over to talk to you. So I will say a few words what we know from atmospheric science perspective related to this challenge that we are talking about here. So these are from the most recent IPCC report scenarios for the future, and we expect to see around 5 degrees warming over the continents by the end of this century if we are not able to control the emissions. And so far we have also observed the sea level rise by around 20 centimeters, which means more flooding, and it's also bad news for the farmlands. We have seen already some salinization of the farmlands, and this is expected to continue. So by the end of this century, if we are not going to control the emissions, we will see 80 centimeters more sea level rise, and that means again more loss of farmland in the coastal areas. And the most important factor for agriculture will be changes in the precipitation patterns, and here we have again the most recent IPCC runs for the precipitation patterns, and you can see gray, brown areas in tropical zones and low latitudes, which means less precipitation and less water for agriculture. And what is also an important source of water resources for agriculture are the glaciers. And here we have a graph showing what has happened to the glacier mass during the past 60 years. And it's clear that all the glaciers worldwide are shrinking. And that's bad news for countries like India and China, which are highly dependent on the water resources coming from the glaciers. Then we have seen an increase in the amount of global natural disasters, and we are seeing already now more often heat waves, which is also destroying agricultural production. We have seen more storms, and we have also seen more flooding in some parts of the world. And in total, we estimate that during the past 10 years we have seen economic losses which are exceeding $1,000 billion, and we have also seen people killed, especially in Asia, but also in Europe, as related to the heat waves that we have been exposed to. And while looking at the future, I'm not very optimistic, because there seems to be a close correlation between the CO2 emissions and the GDP growth, and this is a history for the past 50 years, and it's clear that we have been seeing quite dramatic increase of the emissions. And this is what we expect to see in the global economic growth in the coming decades, and we expect to see a doubling of the GDP, which in the worst case means doubling of the emissions as well. And especially a striking issue is the growth of the amount of middle class, which is a good thing from standard of living point of view, but at the same time this means more emissions, and this is the amount of estimate of amount of middle class by 2030. And that means, for example, that we will have more cars. We expect to see almost doubling of the amount of cars by 2030. So to conclude, it's clear that the emissions are correlating with the GDP growth, and this population growth is also contributing to the intensity of climate change, and this middle class increase is a striking issue. We will have more cars, we will consume more energy, and also it's likely that we will have more meat-based diet, which is also bad news for both CO2 and methane emissions. And finally, a couple of remarks. The use of farmland for energy production, that's really irrelevant approach, and another issue related to the use production of bioenergy is that we can use the forests that are managed in a suitable manner for producing biofuels. Thank you.